I'm Sangeeta Chima, principal of the Amity School, Dubai. Welcoming all of you to a lovely morning. Marhaba. Lovely to be in Dubai. There are so many of you who are from other parts of the world, and we have a panel that is super exciting. I am really thrilled to be connecting to a topic which has amazing significance because international curriculum is what is prevalent in the UAE. The UAE has the largest number of schools with an international curriculum, and Dubai is the city in the world with the largest number of international schools. Can you hold my closer? A little closer. Okay, is it fine now? Right, so everybody hold the mic closer. So, international schools have a curriculum, the international curriculum, which has a particular purpose, much like all the others. And the topic in our panel today connects with global citizenship. Now, first of all, I'm going to get up and ask our panelists, do you feel that there is a very close connect with international schools and that one agenda of global citizenship? If you feel yes, then please come to my right and sit. If you feel can't say maybe yes, sit right there. And if you feel no, there is a query, there's a question, then you could move that side. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel that the international curriculum's agenda connects deeply and closely with the idea and practice and expectation of global citizenship, then let's just realign ourselves. If you say no, if you say yes, and if you can't say right there, you're in the middle. Okay, and Carla, where would you be?
I feel that we have a lot of work to do.
All right.
To be more connected.
Lovely. So we'll get started in understanding the nuances of how an international curriculum, through various strategies, best practices, and perhaps ideologies, connect to international curriculums. But here we are in a country which has the maximum and therefore the significance. And since Carla is here waiting to say a lot of stuff, sharing her mind with a new school that has been come up, and she has been given a very, very responsible position there. Could you tell us what is it that you perceive in this wide world, which is so flat, and the positioning of an international curriculum?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Carla Cavanis, and I am the founding elementary principal and now whole school principal at Dubai Schools, not Al Sheba. Dubai Schools was founded to be a beacon of excellence, and we are an American curriculum school. But with that comes the international perspective. And I believe in order for us to be global citizens and our students to be global citizens, we have to think about the what do we want them to be able to do and how does that look? And so we pull elements from different perspectives. So we have in our school specific learner attributes. In IB schools, they have attributes and learner profiles. And we do something similar where we look at what we want our students to be. We want them to understand different perspectives. We want them to understand different cultures. So we celebrate that through language. We celebrate that through reading. We celebrate that through the projects that they do so that they can be the leaders of the world. We focus on academic excellence, but we also focus on speaking and listening, how to be a great public speaker, how to learn true attributes and ideas that will help them, navigate the world as a global citizen, not just as a one-track focus, such as American curriculum, or only focusing on the UAE curriculum, but to have a broad perspective and understanding of how to really live in a global world.
Magnificent. I think you summarized that really important positioning of a profile of an international student who's ready to take on the global stage. Thank you, Carla. Would it be a little stretched, Jan, to say that international curricula must have a focused impression of perhaps the national agenda, especially if national agenda has got a high mandate in a country, say the UAE or Qatar, etc.?
That's a great question. First of all, good morning, everybody. My name is Jan Stepek. I'm the principal at Regent International School here in Dubai. And I think this particular question is very important because, as you pointed out, there's so many international schools here in Dubai, and I think the diversity is something that we all celebrate here. But as you said, there is also a very clear national agenda because obviously you need some sort of framework to be able to assess schools and really move forward. And I think that's actually why I'm sitting in the middle, as you asked before, because I do feel that global citizenship is certainly, or it should be, on every single school's agenda. Maybe not even international schools, but all schools, because we're all citizens of the world. But at the same time, as you pointed out, many schools, well, all schools live in a context, in a national context, in a context of laws, in a financial context, what have you. So, of course, all schools have to navigate that context. And so here in Dubai and many other schools, one of those parameters is the national agenda. And I think those two, so, meeting national agenda requirements and delivering or implementing an international curriculum are not exclusive. I think they can go hand in hand. To me, the global citizenship is really mostly about skills and values. Now, if you take those concepts, then surely you can actually take elements of whatever agenda there can be, the national agenda here and in some other countries, the national curriculum, and actually work side by side. So, there are some, if you're learning English, there are some expectations that your students have to perform in. But those are not exclusive because you can certainly still teach English and then sit the standardized test to meet the requirements. But how you do it, you're still developing the skills which will then be able to make the students global citizens.
Absolutely. Just a quick, curious one back to you. Would you think there would be challenges if you had this balance? Do you feel that there are challenges under the circumstances that we all work and serve here in international schools in Dubai?
I mean, in an ideal world, of course, I would like to work completely free of any pressures. But at the same time, we don't live in an ideal world. And actually, we have the responsibility to even educate and guide our students, our children, to be able to handle those differences and those parameters. So, if you could develop your own agenda and truly go with international curriculum free of any pressures, sure, it would be wonderful. But actually, I do feel that perhaps there is a benefit in having to live and work alongside the agenda because it opens up wonderful conversations. If you have to collaborate on making the national agenda fit with the international curriculum, actually, it opens up great professional conversations. And I do feel that the students can benefit from that.
Right. And there's this very special connect with the local, national, cultural competence that we call. Vandana, could you give us, some of your very, very keen insights into what your lovely group of schools do in terms of the what in international curriculum and the how in an international curriculum?
Thank you so much. First of all, I would say that we are blessed and privileged to be in a very international expat populated city like Dubai and country UAE. So by default, we are in the waters of globalization and international curricula and also global citizenship here. And I think it's a very big advantage for all of us to embrace this diversity. For me, in the preschool level and across the branches, I think the key to the topic of global citizenship is embracing equality, diversity, and inclusion. even at the young stages and early age whatsoever. And I would actually applaud the UAE government and also the systems here that have been entrusted with this responsibility. And knowing this country from my childhood and birth as well, and coming from India as an origin country, I think that what UAE has done is, given us the freedom to, swim in the waters of what we've learned from our countries where we come from, and yet involve the national agenda and include requirements of the new sector, the new generation, and the diaspora expats here. So I'm pretty much in the middle, but towards the right, because as an optimist and being in a society of Dubai and inclusion-oriented country like UAE, I think we've made leaps and bounds. I know that the inspection framework is hard, and as preschools, we are into it now with the new regulations post-COVID. I'm actually looking forward to the embracing of it from all my branches, and my managers very well all are here from the different preschools. We are actually gearing towards this, and I'm sure the parents and ultimately the child benefits. So we educators work hard to support globalization and global citizenship, and eventually the children who are already global with internet and access to the world will only benefit. That's my take on preschools.
Absolutely, and I think the diversity that exists in getting a profile through to the schools, ready for school, college, and life thereafter, with the foundation so strong and grounded, surely has an amazing impact. Well, to be a little provocative, and Lee, would it be necessary to distinguish between an international curriculum and a national curriculum vis-a-vis the topic global citizenship?
Morning everyone. My name is Lee Hole. I'm the founding principal of Dubai British School, Jumeirah. We're opening in the canal in September next year, so I'm really excited about that, but great to be here with you all today. I actually, if I could, I would sit even further to that side of Carla, because I have a little bit of a difficulty with the concept of an international curriculum. A curriculum is, almost by essence, seems to me like it's a set of things that we cover or we teach or we put in place for students to experience. And that for me is a problem if we're talking about international. I sat here yesterday and listened to lots of presenters talk about the demands that they're under in India, for example. And one of the key things that they spoke about was about preparing students for the workforce. Well, I don't believe in that. That's not what I believe education is here to serve. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong. And that's one of the beauties of being an international citizen, is that I can not agree with that, or I can believe in something different without them feeling that they're wrong. I have a different stance on things. But that is developed, that's culturally and contextually developed from their setting. And that's what education is there to serve in that country. And I think if we start trying to move towards an international curriculum, we're trying to shoehorn and fit lots of different contexts and countries into a setting that may not work. For me, as a person that's worked in the International Baccalaureate, that's not a curriculum, it's a framework. A curriculum doesn't sit in the IB. They do that on purpose. I don't know how you two manage with the knocking, by the way, it's driving me wild. The IB is a framework. And the reason for that is they put a structure in place so that when you place the IB in Qatar, you can put in the national curriculum standards into that framework. When you open a school in Cambodia, you can put in the context of that country into that framework. So if the IB that's been doing it for many, many, many years don't prescribe content for us, why would we then say that an international curriculum is required? And if I think about it from a personal context, I think about my little girl. She's 8 years old. She was born in Dubai. She spent the first 6 years of her life in Dubai, and then we moved to Cambodia. She spent 2 years in Cambodia. She's now moved back to Dubai. She's probably spent maximum 3 months of her life in the UK when we bundle up all of the times that we've been back there. It's really important for me, for her to understand that she comes from a coal mining community in Derbyshire. So when we went back to the UK, I took her to the mining museum and I showed her where her grandparents worked and where my father worked and what it meant to work in a coal mine and how fortunate I was that education brought me away from that community and allowed me to experience something different. But for her to understand her individual context as a British citizen living internationally, she is used to being the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed child in her class. She finds it confusing when she goes back to England, doesn't see any people of colour. She asked me the other day, we were watching some sport on TV and she saw that women were boxing. And she said, oh, women can box. Yeah, of course they can. But my daughter has a much broader view of the globe and of an international community than what my father does. And that's because she understands her own personal context, but she's embraced an international community. And she hasn't followed any international curriculum. She's had experiences and she's been in exceptional schools that have worked on her critical thinking skills, her problem-solving skills, and most importantly, her social skills. She communicates with people and she asks questions. And I think if we talk about an international curriculum, I would prefer us to see a set of competencies that might want to lead students towards, because that then can be something that can be explored across whichever context you're in. But that's my maybe controversial stance.
Thank you so much. It's intriguing to go through a journey where lifelong learning, the learning experiences of a little girl or a boy or all of us at any given time. Sorry, okay. So the learning experience of value with competencies that develop so that a child can really be a happy kid all her life into teenage and adulthood, as well as a citizen who is so conducive to learning forever and embraces all the complications that exist in this flat earth of ours, in all the hotspots that exist in the world. So, Harris, what's your view? You come from Kerala, and we're talking about the international curriculum and its impact worldwide with the alumni perhaps that it hopes to put into the stage and play the game and be a part of the drama. What do you feel is your view from what you perceive back in India?
For me, international curriculum or international education, as Jan said and Lee said, it's more developing the skills and competencies needed for a global citizenship. If I'm talking my perspective of my school and our experience, especially with our alumni, we are proud to say that we have presence of our alumni in around 40 to 50 countries of the world, working in different dimensions, from a scientist in NASA to a film director in Kerala. So we are living in a country, in a world where competencies or skills are very important. We know that we are in the fifth industrial revolution period, wherefore technologies are going to change the entire scenario, either in education or life, technology everywhere, like AI. And I'm speaking this in a country where you have a state minister for artificial intelligence and digital economy. UAE, I think, is the first nation in the world who have appointed a ministry for artificial intelligence. AI, robotics, IoT, Internet of Things, and drones. These are the four technologies which is going drastically change the human living in the future. And to be very honest, we are trying to make our children ready for 21st century skills. But the generation whom we are taught, our learner community, they are either Generation Z or Generation Alpha. These two generations, Generation Z and Generation Alpha means those who are born after 2010, and Generation Z, those who are born 2000 earlies up to 2010. These two communities are called as digital natives. And unfortunately, we people, educators who tries to develop their skills, are digital migrants. So there is a big divide between these digital migrants and digital natives. So as what we do, either it's a national curriculum or an international curriculum, the major element of we educators, our duty is to as Jan and Lee said, to give global competencies or skills which are needed for them to be global citizens. Whether they go through an international curriculum or an international framework or a national curriculum, it is generally different thing. And you know that I'm coming from a country, India, where new education policy, national education policy of 2020, which is putting forward dramatic changes in Indian school and higher education level, where almost all positive elements of international frameworks and curricula like IGCSE or IB or American schooling are taken and trying to be involved in national curriculum framework of the nation. So for me, rather than whether it is a national curriculum or an international curriculum or international framework, it is our main duty to develop the competencies and skills which are needed for an international citizenship, which is very clearly mentioned in the document published by UNESCO. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Harris. And I think you've taken the point ahead from Lee on focusing on the outcome, whether an international or a national curriculum. And of course, the NEP 2020 is a document that is absolutely new and very refreshing. And the national curriculum framework that has been designed thereafter has got a complete shift to competency-based learning, competency-focused assessments, etc. And that's going to be really a game changer with the subcontinent. Thank you. And Father Thompson, we would be more than happy to get a view of a kind of experience that I had yesterday. Let me know, why is it that a state in India, a new state in India called Telangana, whose minister was here yesterday, the education minister was here yesterday, he says that he is converting all government schools in Telangana to IB schools. So what would you want to express in a practice that's happening in your neighboring state? You are from Maharashtra.
My name is Father Thompson Kinney and I'm principal of St. John the Baptist High School and Junior College, Thane. As things of government school that have been going to international school, same thing it is also happening in Maharashtra and also in Mumbai. Some of our government schools are been adopting that policy of having international school. I come from a state board school, mine is a government school, but we have a government state curriculum, but yet I try to put in international curriculum. It's more basically because of my friend's set of competency and developing overall skills of the students. Because once they grew up, what is required for them is the skills. And here we are all thanking the organization to have brought us together globally. Here we are all globally connected, and through sharing of the views, they will get connected. But I feel having that curriculum is a must so that the child understands globally and not only focus on one part of it.
Thank you, Father Thompson. Very candidly expressed, and I think the change that's happening across many countries in adapting more international curricula is so prevalent. Perhaps there are many reasons, not just one. Of course, the competencies we would very, very closely focus on and implement. But Carla, if you could be kind enough to share some of your activities that your school would connect and is connecting with cultural competencies. How do you bring that about in international curriculum school?
Absolutely. And some of my colleagues here said a lot of things that resonated with me. Dr. Vanandia, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. runs nurseries. My son is in nursery school, and I literally just left his event for International Day. So I had to run, go set up his event, and then come here. And after here, I have to go back to work. And you, Jan, you spoke about the values. How do these values align with what we want to see and what we want from students? And Lee, you spoke very clearly about your daughter and how you want things to look for her when she grows up. And I think the same way. I want my son to have a clear understanding of social and emotional learning, and I want my students to have that concept as well. I think early on we focus on, do they know the math? Do they know the reading? Do they know the writing? So early on that we forget to focus. And only that. I think in order to have a well-rounded global citizen, we have to first also focus on understanding the world and other cultures, understanding that there are other people in this world, other people in our classrooms besides myself. They speak other languages besides the language that I speak. They practice different religions. They eat different foods. And our students and our children need to understand what that looks like in order to have empathy, in order to have understandings of other people, and have that tolerance that we see when we are living and working in Dubai. So I think that social and emotional learning should also be a part of global citizenship, should be a part of every curriculum, so that the students know who they are and know that there are other people besides themselves. So I think that is truly, truly key. My son, we are American, but we're Sudanese American. So my son has a little afro and he has on a white jalabia or thobe with an American flag in his hand because he's also an American citizen. So he is a multicultural student in a multicultural classroom. We've seen so many flags being waved in his parade this morning, and it was good to see that so many people can come together to educate children, educate the world, and be global citizens. So I think that's a true part of international curriculum, social and emotional learning and well-being.
Absolutely. You hit that last nail also, well-being. And it's also well connected. You know, we have a tendency to move or maybe stay, but now move out of the flag, food, and festival culture in a school scenario. There's so much more. And the widening of that horizon, especially with social emotional learning, the castle framework, as well as the focus on well-being as well-being in our school functioning day to day is absolutely a necessity. It's vital. And yes, Carla, what else would you like to add there?
One more thing before I leave. I have to leave early. My apologies. But I think that if your values align to your curriculum and what you teach, and those attributes align, that you can foster global citizenship for all the students that we have in our school, for the children that we are with. I think it's definitely possible if we hold true to our core values, whatever they may be: academic excellence, cultural preservation, whatever they are, they can align to global citizenship, to the frameworks, also to the inspection framework, as long as we hold true to our values and what we want at the end of the day for the students we serve.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Yeah, I completely understand that it's the values that a child takes on and grabs and puts into the satchel, even if it is a digital world, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you so much. And whenever you leave, we're so very happy to have had you on this panel. Really nice. Yeah. Thank you. So, in a nursery situation, there are so many lovely kids bubbling with unimaginable energy, Vandana. And in an international curriculum, I understand that besides cultural competencies and the social, emotional, and well-being needs of a child, there is a special highlight of real time experiences, real world experiences. So, what's your take on how important is it as a part of the the international curriculum that you follow in your schools?
So I think the child's age at the preschool level is of utmost importance, because that whole brain map and 0 to 6, where the foundation is laid for inclusion, diversity, equality, tolerance, accepting other people's looks, likes, religion, nationality, ethos, and even education attainment levels. And it all starts at that age, because these children go on to big schools and primary schools, and the setting in stone happens at the nursery level. So in our nurseries, along with, of course, the like progressive way of the child-led model, which we've implemented since COVID with the new EYFS guidelines, and my whole team of curriculum specialists and SEN, leaders are here. So in our nurseries, and what has encouraged us is, with a nearly 150 nationality, which is the number of children that we have, along with a nationality mix of 100 nationalities of teachers who teach them. That's a huge mix of interface and interplay of cultures.
That's truly international.
It's truly international.
And that's the real experience.
That is a real
That's the real
experience of so many
experience,
nationalities.
yeah.
I can see on the table there are more than 20 nationalities, or maybe 15 that I can see across here itself, of my educationists and my teachers and principals. So having said that, we do have the structure of the British EYFS. However, we've always included the TY-Riki or the American or the Montessori or the Playway or the child-led model, which is now adopted in like Finland and other countries, which is the new age philosophy. Having said that, it's hard. Assessments and attainment, progression, monitoring, teaching the teachers to unlearn what they've learned 10 years back, and new learnings, and relearn the new systems of global citizenship and inclusion has been hard. But again, training the trainers, and that's my trainers out there as well, has been, and I think a leadership mindset. It starts with us to ensure that we are moving this way, what we want for our children. And for the love of education and children, we want to always innovate. So in that respect, I think well-being and wellness, as you touched the topic, has been the aim even for the government and the KHDA with the new inspection framework here. We didn't have that requirement for preschools to have that, but my team and my daughter, who came in from King's College London, worked on the wellness curriculum. And we've implemented EQ in early years as one of the first of its kind. And my team has been very hands-on with having small innovative solutions like calm corners for the children, mindful practices, breathing, tolerance with children, accepting your own welcome, your own well-being, a feelings finder for children to see, I'm angry today, I'm sad today, awareness of the feelings and wellness and well-being for your friends and others, practices of sharing and caring and all that. So that's social and emotional development, which really takes on very intrinsic character of the child, which we should at the early years. So that helps them to absorb other people's other children's cultures. Mothers and parents welcome this inclusion facility and will be more tolerant, hopefully, as global citizens. We have the responsibility, all of us here, including parents, to ensure our children are tolerant, accepting of other children's faith, natures, or choices. And that's what we as educationists and school providers have to ensure through our curriculum practices, Playway method, make it engaging for children. And 50, 100 years ago, there were different priorities. We are in the new generation, as you rightly said. And in this new age, I think global citizenship is at our face in our TV channels, in everywhere that we watch, compared to 25, 30 years back, what I used to watch. So I think it's the need of the hour. And I think slowly and surely we're embracing this. And I do believe that the governments and the national agenda, which is now in India and in UAE and other countries, is also enforcing us to change. It's sure and slow and steady, but we are forced to change. And I think that's good from a compliance angle.
So essential. Change has manifested, it stays constant, and we keep changing. But you've brought out something really very interesting. The focus on equity. We are responsible for engaging with all learners, and all learners have that right to grab an education which they deserve. And all the practices that you involve perhaps enable it absolutely to the best percentage possible, more than 100%. So lovely to have connect with the real world practices, what life is really about, with the child in mind, the child's environment in mind, the child's family in mind, and whatever happens in that little world, that little beautiful world. So Jan, there is language, which is a challenge for perhaps national curricular schools. But in the international curriculum schools, language and linguistics perhaps match up to what the world would want. What happens to a local mother tongue connect, if at all? So, how do you balance language and linguistics in an international curriculum?
That's a great question, and I think Carla touched on the fact that global citizenship is connected with intercultural competency. Now, intercultural competency is actually a term that we all like to use, but it starts by recognizing my own culture first. And many schools that I'm familiar with do not really start with that because they're so focused on the international or intercultural
They
competency.
just lose that connect at that very vulnerable age.
Exactly. And I think what needs to happen is through different events for students and for different learning environments, students have to reflect on how they think, where are they coming from in terms of their own culture. That's the first element. Only then can they really start putting themselves in a situation in which they have to deal with diversity, and they will overcome how they will naturally think, and they will start thinking and be open-minded about activities around them. And certainly language plays a role in that, because obviously, we all have different ways of communicating in different languages. Now, those of us who speak different languages, I'm sure you will agree with me that depending on the language that we speak at the moment, we actually think slightly differently, okay? In some languages, you are naturally much more direct, and it can actually get you back to linguistics in terms of how is the language phrased. In some languages, your verb, which really carries the action, comes at the very end. If you put a long sentence together in a language like that, you're sort of waiting. Their home culture, just being surrounded by a little bit more diversity, when they either go back or go somewhere else, all of a sudden they flourish. Because what they've seen is that there is a world out there that, they've picked up slight things, non-verbal cues and behaviors, you can read, they became savvy in terms of being able to fit in different cultures. And I think, so, this is a very important element, but I think what we can also do is, even in those situations, if there is the one teacher who is slightly different, who behaves slightly differently, perhaps it can actually help the students see that there is an opportunity beyond.
And just to add to Leah and Jan, is that besides, the children, I think we need to also look at educators and teachers and training and mindsets. And I think the biggest challenge is the leadership challenge of helping our workforce to absorb these ideals and our experiences individually or as a collective group. And I'm glad that these conferences kind of open our mind and our, thoughts to inclusion in different aspects of our own learnings and biases or whatever we've come up with. So I have to share this, that I was at a Harvard conference just 2 weeks ago for a training on leadership. And it was a global conference with more than 800 people, but my group was 150, and of course all different nationalities, CEOs and founders of company, education and otherwise. But the teaching and the learning model there, I was quizzed and intrigued, it's a case study model. Total curiosity and creative thinking for our age leaders who are not in school anymore or in university, but are leading through experiential learning of each other. So today what we're doing out here in the conference is actually experiential learning and sharing, which is what leaders at Harvard were encouraging us to do without any theories or rote learning or understanding. But what is today's experience teaching us? What is the new political world heading towards? What is globalization? And it's changing so rapid and so fast. So the case study method which I learned, which I was a little taken aback, was completely on the spot cold calling, and someone like leaders like us were not used to it. But I actually embraced it. There's no right and wrong answer. It's actually a focus group strategy session on what should have this case study looked like if the educationist or the leader or the child would have taken this route versus that route. So hypothetical thinking, probability, and opening our minds to challenges for the future, which is very unpredictable. So I think this kind of learning, if we can bring, and especially research-based philosophy, this is something which I think what I gathered across the diaspora at Harvard was to bring in this research-based curiosity thinking, like not only to our workplaces, to our leadership in our classrooms or even in the school setting, but even through our children to their families and parents. So the collective responsibility is a larger one to help our educators and train the teachers and train the trainers to a like bigger purpose of global thinking.
Absolutely. A very new and interesting strategy, I would say, to use case studies so that there is a complete open opera happening and you can look at various dimensions and various situations. So very, very situational. Harvard, of course, has got a center for learning which is very new, very evolving, and super innovative. But going back to a century, there is this lovely story where we had professors, scholars, fellows, students from the university, Boston, Massachusetts, start what is known as the American Field Service, the First World War and the Second World War. So when France was going through devastation with the wars, ambulance drivers, they were not ambulance drivers, but they converted themselves to be ambulance drivers, shifted from the Harvard University area to France and started what is known as the American Field Service, the American Ambulance Field Service at that time. And that movement has now got converted into the world's largest voluntary service for intercultural exchange. It's a brilliant platform and it's voluntary and it works brilliantly because you have student exchange happening intercontinentally. So now we have the round square with Kurt Hahn's ideals. We have the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme. There are lots of other dynamics that work in schools, and all schools who do take on the Girl Guide and the Boy Scouts movement and things like that. So coming back to our lovely panel, Harris, a quick one on your understanding of perhaps student agency. How important is it? How do you make sure that student voice is an important factor of your curriculum design?
Students' voice in curriculum designing.
Yes.
It's very important to have students' voice also in the curriculum designing, because as you perfectly said, from whom we are developing this curriculum. We are developing this curriculum for students and the learners, and ownership of the curriculum by the learners is very important. Instead of we creating a curriculum and putting them on their head and asking them that you have to go through this framework and curriculum, involvement and making an ownership of the learners in the process of curriculum development is very crucial one. That's how the entire process of learning will happen. As I said earlier, understanding the level of the learners and the social, emotional, and also the technological, especially in this world, the technological background of the learners is very important, because you can never give a thing which is applicable maybe in a well-developed world to a culture or to a nation which is underdeveloped. So understand the learner level, their cultural level, and also understanding as Lee said, the divide, the socio-economic divide we have. We are fortunate enough to have access to all these diverse communities, but there are n number of students, even still they are struggling for their livelihood. If you look to African countries. True. And in India, if I'm talking in Indian scenario, maybe 20 years or 25 years back, the major agenda of government of India when implementing the national policies was bringing back students to the schools. There was a midday meal program. There was another program.
True, true.
Which tried to bring the students to the schools rather than teaching
That
them.
itself was a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, especially in so many developing and underdeveloped
developing countries. So,
right.
How do you deliver the framework or the curricula depends upon the social, economical, and cultural background of the area or the nation or the city you are going to implement.
And also the learners' understanding of their own identity and expression of that identity.
Here the
I'm
the
afraid,
concept of
I'm afraid I'll have to
yes.
just be a little mindful about time.
Time of show. Okay.
Yeah. So
I will.
Yes, please.
I'm mindful about it. Just 1 minute. That is why what Lee said comes in important. When you have a framework, you can apply it in Qatar or
Absolutely.
in Cambodia or in India or in UAE. So creating a framework which is applicable to the social, economic, cultural background of the learners is more important than having a global curriculum applicable to all nations.
Absolutely. With all due respect to the region and the national, that's why in the UAE, all curricula, whether international or not, have Arabic as a compulsory language.
Yes.
And I would say that's a very strategic implementation in the curriculum, because you will be definitely getting students of other nationalities to connect even with the economic and business requirements as they grow up, if they continue to work right here. So we are now going to wrap up. I think this was a very exciting and engaging panel that has spoken so well on various themes connected to the topic. But just to end very quickly, can we all just give ourselves a challenge, a 2-sentence on what do you think is the perception that you have individually? It could be connected to your belief on global citizenship and international curriculum. A 2-sentence understanding of what do you believe is this perception that we all have or should have or shouldn't have of global curriculum and the global citizenship and an international curriculum. Any ways you can put it. Global curriculum and international citizenship, that's the same. Anybody?
I feel we need to have this because the connect becomes more comfortable, and at the same time they are aware of what things are globally. Otherwise they are only focused on their region or at their state. So I feel it is a must.
Thank you. Would you like to take it up?
Yes, I think it's already there. It's there with our children who are traveling across the globe and who want to, be international, workforce for the future. So it's a must, and I do believe leadership and the top-down approach is the right way to, ensure it's done with helping our teachers who need a lot of help also.
So again, I think having intercultural competencies is a must in today's world, not only for business, but also for personal reasons. But I agree with Lee and others. The concept of an international curriculum implies that everybody studies the same thing, and that cannot be done. So it's not about the question of curriculum, it is a question of framework, values, and skills.
I would say that as educators, if we can help young people to understand what has helped to shape their identity and what will shape their identity moving forward so that they can be aware of what is influencing them, I think we're on the right track to creating global citizens, because then students are more aware of what is coming into them, how they can be critical of it, and then they can take or they can reject things that come their way sensibly.
For me, curriculum should be deep-rooted, a tree deep-rooted in the national ethos, ready to flourish for an international understanding. That should be the model of our curriculum.
A fine, delicate balance. A quick question from the audience. Would you like to throw something at our panelists? I'm afraid we are running out of time, but we could take one quick question to anybody. Okay. So there's nothing that. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I would like to ask a question on international curriculum pertaining to children with special educational needs. Everybody is talking about alternate curriculum. What is your take on alternate curriculum? Because we have your principals from various schools, various curriculum. So, what is your take on alternate curriculum for children with special educational needs? Do you think there should be a common practice?
Madam, to answer to your question, we have a state board school as well as a special needs school also. And at the same time, we try to see how we could help these children to cope with certain values in their own capacity and possibility and make them to stand on their own feet. So we at St. John look into that aspect, that these are also children with the same needs and equal things should be shared with these students.
And I do believe that we do say special needs with students with special needs. We do coin that frame in other way, which you are saying that differently abled. So it's the duty of the educators to find out where is they are abled. Even if they have something lacking, they will have something able they are. So it's our duty of educators to find out where are the differently abled, especially based on the theory of multiple intelligence by Gardner.
Thank you. I feel we must have adequate plans in every kind of curriculum to follow a pathway with alternate strategies and based on various levels for children of special needs. I am aware that many such curriculum do exist. I wish our Indian curriculum would also take on that responsibility very soon. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Harris. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Yan. Thank you, Vandana. And thank you, Father Thompson. And thank you, my dear, for giving us this lovely opportunity. And the audience here has been so very quiet and engaging. I'm sure you had a lovely time. Thank you.